Welcome members to the Scrutiny Committee for Community Customer Services and Service Delivery. We welcome today, we've got members from Democratic Services, Legal Services, the Management Team, the Environmental Health Team and Customer Services. Please note that Councillor Boustrop gives her apologies and therefore I'm acting as chair for this meeting. I've appointed Councillor Ellis as the vice chair for this evening, and I need to seek approval from the committee for this by members nodding to indicate. If members could do so now. Thank you. Can I now pass to Councillor Ellis to conduct the roll call?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, committee. If I can start with Councillor Lee.
Here, present.
Councillor Bennett.
Present.
Councillor Cartwright.
Present.
Councillor Chapman.
Present.
Councillor Clark.
Present.
Councillor Dempsey. Councillor Dempsey. No. Councillor Edwards. Councillor Edwards. Councillor Eggleston.
Here.
Councillor Ellis, present. Councillor Hussain.
Present.
Councillor Phillips.
Present.
Councillor Pulfer.
Present.
Councillor Smith.
Present.
Councillor Sweatman.
Present.
Councillor Whitaker.
Present.
Also tonight, the Cabinet members in attendance as portfolio holders, Councillor Belsey, Councillor Demir, Councillor Webster. Thank you. I hand back over to the chair.
Thank you very much. I'm now going to pass to our legal officer, Tom Clark, who will provide a meeting explanation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. The meeting is being held virtually. Unfortunately, COVID rates in most of England are still very high, and we're doing this for public health reasons. The committee itself doesn't make decisions, and so we are in order to hold this virtually. And just for clarification, Councillor Dempsey has been substituted by Councillor Eggleston, and Councillor Whitaker is the substitute for Councillor Boustrop.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. I've got item 2 on the agenda is to note substitutes. I was actually told Councillor Eggleston was substituting for Councillor Sparachi, but I'm not sure which way round it is anyway. And then I've got that Councillor Whitaker is substituting for Councillor Boustrop. Item 3 on the agenda is to receive apologies for absence. Apologies have been received from Councillor Boustrop and Councillor Sparachi. Item 4 on the agenda is to receive direct declarations of interest from members in respect of any matters on the agenda. Please, can you members raise their hand to indicate? I see 2. Councillor Pulfer.
Madam Chairman, thank you. I believe I ought to reveal that I am the leader of Haywards Heath Town Council, and seeing as town councils are being mentioned in this paper tonight, I'm merely bringing that to everybody's attention. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Councillor Phillips.
Thank you, Chair. I declare an interest as I'm a parish councillor on Worth Parish Council, and they are covered in the community governance reviews.
Okay, I've also got Councillor Eggleston.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I'm leader of Burgess Hill Town Council.
And also Councillor Sweatman.
Yes, I suppose I better follow suit and declare I'm the leader of East Scrutiny Town Council. Thank you.
Okay, actually now there is Councillor Liz Bennett.
Thank you, Chairman. I think you're going to find a few more. Yes, I am a member of East Grinstead Town Council. Thank you.
Okay, I see no other hands. So thank you very much. Okay, we now can move to item number 5 on the agenda, which is to confirm the minutes of the meeting of this committee held on the 17th of November 2021. Members need to vote with the yes or no buttons to accept those minutes. There's a majority in favour, so those minutes are accepted. Thank you. Okay, item 6 on the agenda is to consider any items that the chairman takes as he agrees to take as urgent business. I have none. So we can move to item 7 on the agenda, which is air quality. I'm going to go to Adam Draycott, who's the team leader for environmental protection, for this report.
Thank you, Chair. As a council, we have a duty to monitor, assess and report on air quality across the district. We report on air quality each year to DEFRA, and this is done through an annual status report. The latest submitted annual status report was in June 2021, which covered all monitoring in 2020 and compared the results against the air quality objective standards set nationally, which are health-based criteria. So the next ASR, annual status report, will be submitted this June in 2022 after we have analysed 2021's data. So the 2021 report, which covers all the monitoring in 2020, was reviewed by DEFRA. The report was reviewed by DEFRA, and we received some good feedback from them. They said it was well structured, it was detailed, provided the information specified in the guidance. So I'll just summarise our findings from the 2020 data. So we're continuing to see a downward trend of nitrogen dioxide levels in our town centres, which has been evident over the last 9 years, which you can see graphically represented in Appendix 2, which I believe is page 18 of your papers. We have one air quality management area at Stone Pound Crossroads in Sussex, which was declared an air quality management area in 2012 on account of nitrogen dioxide levels above the objective annual mean. On declaring the air quality management area, we were required to prepare an action plan with the aim of reducing pollutant levels below the objective level. So we're continuing to refine the air quality action plan, and this work is overseen by the steering group, made up of members from Mid Sussex District Council and also West Sussex County Council, as well as officers from both and representatives from Sussex Parish Council. Because roadside nitrogen dioxide is caused by local traffic, it's very important that we work with our West Sussex County Council colleagues, as the solutions to air pollution are primarily related to traffic reduction. And West Sussex is the Highways Authority with control over traffic management. You'll see from the action plan that 5 of the ongoing actions for Stone Pound, of those 5, 4 sit with West Sussex County Council. For example, the improvements to the A2300 into Burgess Hill to encourage trucks coming from the south to access Burgess Hill via this route and not via Sussex. Reviewing the signage at the crossroads to encourage drivers to cut engines. Development of a cycle route from Sayers Common to Sussex, and the installation of sensors to optimise traffic signalling to minimise waiting at the junction. The good news is that for 3 of the 4 previous years, we've seen levels around stone pound drop below the objective level. And this is in line with the national trend. So monitoring in 2020, as you all know, accounted for the periods of lockdown and drastic reductions in traffic levels, which have clearly a very positive effect on pollution, and particularly nitrogen dioxide. And DEFRA have advised that the results of monitoring in 2020, and obviously when we consider all of 2021's data in our next report, when traffic was drastically reduced due to COVID restrictions, we shouldn't rely on those results to make decisions about revocations for air quality management areas. So we have to take that into account. Overall, our monitoring in 2020 showed no exceedances of the air quality objective levels for nitrogen dioxide. We're still investigating the area around London Road in East Grinstead, which you may remember back in 2019 showed one location as exceeding the objective. But none of the additional monitoring locations that we subsequently installed have exceeded the objective in 2020, so that's good news too. We will be installing an air quality station on the roadside in London Road, which will give us real-time data and more accurate data on which to base decisions on whether to declare an air quality management area. We are a bit delayed, the project's been delayed. We're awaiting a power supply from UK Power Networks. And one other key area of work for environmental health is the scrutinising planning proposals to ensure that no significant adverse impacts in relation to air quality results from development. And we have a Sussex-wide air quality and emissions mitigation guidance, which is linked into the district plan. So in summary, the air quality in Mid-Sussex is generally good and it's improving. It's certainly improved in 2020. Monitoring in 2020 showed no exceedances of the air quality objectives. We have one air quality management area at Stonepound Crossroads, where we've been working with county colleagues on the action plan measures. And we are anticipating that the air quality station will be installed in East Grinstead this summer, but we're in the hands of UK Power Networks there. So I'll hand back to the chair, but I'll be pleased to address any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Adam, for that clear report. And it's obviously, you know, we're going in the right direction in Mid-Sussex. So I'm going to open it up now to the committee for debate. So I'll come to Councillor Sweatman, has raised his hand first.
Yes, thank you, Adam, for all the hard work you've done on the air quality management. It's very pleasing to see that it was widened to 6 new locations in East Grinstead. The question I was going to ask, when is the one in London Road going to be installed? But you've obviously answered that. And it's very pleasing that the levels have actually come down in London Road, which is quite surprising with the traffic build-ups that we do have there. And I'll be very pleased and very supportive of the one in London Road, which I believe is virtually outside McDonald's, because that does get traffic jams going into McDonald's quite frequently. So I want to thank you for all your hard work on that. And yeah, I look forward to the one being installed in East Grinstead. Thank you.
Would you like to say anything, Adam, in response?
No, I'm looking forward to it as well, Councillor. It's been a long time coming and it's been a little bit frustrating for us too.
Thank you. Now I go to Councillor Whitaker.
Thank you, Chairman. On the same theme, I actually live just off the London Road in East Grinstead, which is in my ward, this report. And whilst I'll note what Councillor Sweatman has said, I think I'm very well acquainted with the level of traffic congestion, which is pretty continuous. I'm also very concerned. Obviously, 2 of our site allocation DPD sites are in my ward, in Imberhorn Lane and in Crawley Down Road, and the policy SA 19 and for the sites SA 19 and 20, SA 38 goes on to try and provide for future mitigation. So I'm very concerned about the levels. We haven't got proper readings because it's 2020 with respect, Adam, and the monitoring station hasn't been installed. Your report also mentions there's a continuous analyzer, which I'd like some further clarification on exactly, is that part of the future installation? So the junction of the A22 and 264 is permanently gridlocked most of the time. So NOx figures are only going to go one way, and that's up. And we're supposed to be catering for a future 750 houses plus 150 that are being constructed right now. There's great opposition to the site allocation SA 19 and 20 from local residents. And indeed, the Surrey County Council consultation response dated the 24th of January, which I referred at the council meeting last week to Councillor Salisbury, raises great concerns about the necessity for doing works at the 222-264 junction. So I think there are, whilst I acknowledge your report and thank you for it, and I've learned a lot about air quality from your reports reading through this, I've got great concerns, and I think this council and the cabinet should consider those and pressure Surrey and the 2 district councils to work together to get a solution. Thank you.
Okay, can we come back to Adam and to respond to that? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, just to pick up on your point about the continuous analyzer, that is exactly what we will be putting into London Road. It takes measurements, it extracts some air and takes measurements. It'll be both of particulate matter and of NOx every 15 minutes. And we don't have one in the district yet. So this will be a new venture for us. It'll give us much more refined, accurate and usable data. So that will help us in looking at the trends and obviously using that for the amount of pollution that is along that London Road, and we can then model that into other areas too. So it'll be very useful, and it is a continuous analyzer, which is different from the other monitoring locations that we have, which are diffusion tubes. They give us monthly average figures as opposed to this more detailed, refined 15-minute data set.
Thank you, Adam. Can I go to Councillor Ellis now?
Thank you, Chairman. Could I just ask, Adam, on page 13 under the current actions, item 5, installation of the pollutant sensors to optimise traffic signalling, would you just be able to give a little bit more information on that for me this evening, if possible? Thank you.
Yes, shall I carry on, Chair?
Yes, please do.
So this is a project, a pilot project that West Sussex County Council have initiated, and it'll be installing sensors on each of the 4 branches around the Stonepound crossroads. And we're going to assist their work as they will need to calibrate the levels they get. They're indicative monitors. They don't actually record the actual NOx, but they provide an indicative measure of levels of pollutants. So they will need to calibrate those. And the aim of it is to optimize the signaling at the junction there, so that if it's identified that one branch has got unusually high levels from these sensors, then that branch can be eased. More priority can be given to that branch at the crossroads. So the idea is to optimize the sequencing to reduce queuing and therefore reduce pollution from standing vehicles, from waiting vehicles. They are hoping to install this quarter, install the sensors and start gathering data. And we'll be doing all we can to help our West Sussex County colleagues with that project.
Thank you, Adam. And I think people will be very grateful for that, because I mean, there's always that sort of worry when people are standing in traffic, etc., and waiting with engines. But can also just thank you for the report. It was really detailed, but it was very easy to read as well. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor Ellis. I'm going to come now to, I see one more hand raised, which is Councillor Cartwright. So I'll come past to him now. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm interested in the link to the district plan that you mentioned, if you could amplify that a little bit more, because we are aggregating more and more housing. It does come in sort of healthy bites, but the aggregate is a matter of concern, that we're going to be causing pollution, particularly within the urban areas, particularly during rush hour. You know, in discussing the district plan, the concept of being constrained by water has become emerging. I was wondering the extent to which we're going to be constrained by our supply of fresh air as well.
Can I come back to Adam?
Yes, certainly. Yeah, so air quality would be a material planning consideration. So we do scrutinise the development proposals when they come forward. And that's why the Sussex-wide air quality emissions mitigation guidance is so helpful, because it sets a framework by which we can assess these proposals, and we can determine whether significant adverse impact would occur as a result of the development. So there's some methodology described in there, and if there's also emissions mitigation recommended. So this would encourage the provision, for example, of electric vehicle charging points as part of development. You know, and if there was a significant adverse impact, then that's the sort of thing that we could recommend that the development doesn't proceed. But we can only do that if the reports provided by the air quality specialists that we will scrutinise, if they suggest that there will be a problem.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to go now to the Cabinet member, to Councillor Webster.
Thank you, Chairman, for allowing me to speak at the scrutiny panel. I just really wanted to thank the local councillor group that we meet with every year, the Stone Pound Crossroad Councillor Group, for their support in the work that's been done over a number of years, and which has led to the reductions in pollutants, particularly at Stone Pound Crossroads, but also across the district, as people become more aware of the impacts of air pollution. I do want to also thank officers for their very diligent efforts in regard to these reports. And of course, as Councillor Whitaker said, the selection of sites for the site allocations document was a very diligent process that he was involved in, and I'm sure the air quality impacts would have been assessed as part of that process. I also wanted to just reassure members in other parts of the district that the air quality monitoring real-time station that is being installed in East Grinstead, and for which we did some training for all the East Grinstead councillors, is a mobile station, and it will be able to be moved around the district as readings either raise or reduce. So it's not a system that's going to be installed in East Grinstead and will be in East Grinstead forever and a day. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Adam, for this report. It's obviously an annual report that comes to this committee, and we will look with interest to see what the readings are in the coming year. So I'd like to move to the recommendations, which are on page 9 of the papers. So this committee is recommended to endorse the approach of the council on air quality management. Can I ask members to now vote with the yes and no buttons? You have 20 seconds to vote. Thank you. So that was a unanimous vote in favour of the air quality management. Thank you. We now move to item 8 on the agenda, which is an overview of the complaints received by the council in 2020-2021. I'm going to come to Simon Hughes, Head of Digital and Customer Services, for his report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm pleased to introduce the Council's annual complaints report for 2020 to 2021. I think it's important to say, before I go through some of the key points, that an important focus for the Council is to learn from the complaints that are made to see how that we can improve services, but also to learn from the compliments we receive, because it's also incredibly useful to know when we get things right and then multiply that and magnify that. So to move to some key points. In 2021, we received a total of 181 complaints and 574 compliments, and that compares favourably with our 1920 report, in which we received 230 complaints and 336 compliments. Moving on to the Ombudsman involvement. In 2021, we received a total of 15 complaints that referred to the local government Ombudsman, and that compared to 14 in the previous year. And of these complaints referred to the LGO, 3 were upheld as compared to 2 in the previous year, with Mid Sussex having 100% compliance in adhering to the recommendations from the LGO. For each complaint and investigation, the local government ombudsman will submit recommendations for us to consider. Perhaps the most interesting of these complaints referred to in the LGO by the LGO in 2021 is 33% result in a satisfactory remedy. So one that's agreed by both the complainant and the council before they're investigated by the ombudsman. And the statistic compares very favourably with neighbouring authorities whose average was 16%. In this context, upheld are those complaints where the LGO finds some fault in the way the council acted. So it's not necessarily that we've resolved it, but really that we can learn from it and improve what we've done. And this includes where we've agreed to put things right previously or accepted that we need to remedy the situation. So that's the key points, and I hand it back to you, Chairman, for further questions.
Thank you, Simon, for that report. I mean, it's very encouraging that Mid Sussex is doing well, especially compared to our neighbours. I'm going to open it up now for questions from members. Okay, I can see Councillor Clark, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I think it's a good report. I think I'm very pleased how Mid Sussex have performed in very difficult circumstances, not only for the public, but for officers over the last year. And I just wondered whether some of the complaints might be sort of because people are frustrated at home, through the pandemic's caused it. But otherwise, I think it's a very good report, and I think we should be proud of our officers, how they're dealing with our customers and our residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to comment on that, Simon Hughes?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I think we have seen some different complaints coming in during COVID, and that's partly as a result of changes in the way that we've had to deliver services due to the COVID rules. But equally, there's ways, we can learn from that as well. Since some of the ways in which we are providing services, actually, a lot of residents have found very positive and not necessarily improvement, but an added benefit to the way we deliver services before. So we have a number of services that are increasingly digitized and people can engage with online, for example. No surprise that I'd say that, which means that they're available 24/7. But equally, we've also had a lot more compliments about how we've responded under COVID, as you'll see from the data. And that's particularly around the support we provided across our teams by phone, and also within the customer services team that Karen Spears manages. So there's a lot of lessons to learn during COVID, and a lot that we can increase the I think how our services meet the needs of local residents. Thank you.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Could I go to Councillor Whitaker for the next question?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, just obviously echo the sentiments of Councillor Clark. I find it hugely gratifying that we get such scrutiny and transparency in the complaints, unlike some other major organisations that don't currently in the press. And I think that's a major compliment to this whole council, particularly the officers, senior management, and councillors and everybody involved. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Would the Cabinet, I see no other members of this committee who've raised their hands. Would the Cabinet member like to comment, or can I just ask?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. That's kind of you. Thank you. Well, I was absolutely over the moon when I saw this report, and it's really, really good, because I think although it was, as it's noted, that the LGA had to close for a while during this pandemic, I think all of us as members had a fuller inbox, post and telephone calls, because of course more people were at home and needed something to do. So I was extraordinarily pleased with this. I was especially pleased that our compliments have gone up. And this is something I hear. I get emails from residents saying how lovely they all are. So I would like to give my admiration to our frontline teams and all the teams that are behind them, because their patience and their kindness is totally unbound. So I do thank them. But this is really good news. The only other thing I would say is that very often we as members are also in the front line. So I do hope that everyone will read the review of local government complaints, because it does give a very good synopsis of raising the profile of complaints, and it's how we tackle them to start with before we pass them on very often, and work with our officers. So well done, all the officers, and that's enough from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Demir. We're now asked to move to I'm going to go to the recommendations, which are on page 24 of our papers. So members are recommended to note this report. So we will need to vote with the yes and no buttons, and you will have 20 seconds to do so. Thank you, members. That was unanimously in favour. So thank you. We now move to item 9 on our agenda. This is the draft terms of reference for the forthcoming community governance reviews. This report is going to be introduced by Terry Stanley, who's the business unit leader for the Democratic Services. I pass to Terry. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, and good evening, members. Within the committee report before you this evening, you have 5 terms of reference for community governance reviews. 2 of these are for petitioned community governance reviews, the terms of reference of which were examined and discussed at your previous meeting on the 17th of November. And with permission, it is these 2 that I will introduce first. At your last meeting, I said I would bring forward guidance for respondents for each of these reviews. The guidance is in your papers and now follows on from the TORs in the terms of reference in each case. The terms of reference and guidance for Worth Parish Council is Appendix A to the committee report, and the terms of reference and guidance for the Hurstpierpoint and Sayers Common Parish Council is Appendix B to the committee report. At your last committee, it was established that a community governance review is a qualitative review. It is not a poll of any kind, and it does not deliver a quantitative or numerical result. Indeed, your chairman, Councillor Boutrup, reinforced this in her summing up. So rigorous and impartial evaluation of qualitative submissions should be this council's approach. The guidance for respondents is clear that we wish to receive submissions that concisely explain how a particular proposition might derive the following benefits: improved community engagement, enhanced community cohesion, better local democracy, more effective and convenient delivery of local services and local government, and how it reflects the identities and interests of the community. Also at your last meeting, Councillor Mrs. Lee indicated that any additional themes in the guidance for respondents should be more balanced and less leading. As you will see at the top of page 67 of your papers, respondents are invited to consider 4 additional themes which are now more open, more balanced, and less leading in nature. Turning to the terms of reference for the Worth Parish Council and Councillor Gibson's email to committee members this afternoon, I would draw members' attention to page 61 in your papers, the terms of reference at 1.2, the scope of the review. Whilst this is not presented as a numbered list, this does set out the possible outcomes of the review. Namely, firstly, that if a new parish council and parish council is resolved, it would result in 2 newly named parish councils. The new parish council, singular, for Crawley Down would be styled Crawley Down Village Council. Secondly, what remains of the existing Worth Parish Council would be renamed Copthorne Parish Council. Thirdly, if a new parish and parish council is not resolved, i.e. the no change option, then fourthly, the name of the existing Worth Parish Council could be changed to better reflect the identity of both villages, and the options are set out there. The wording in section 1.2, I agree, could be presented in an even clearer format, but it is the wording that was proposed to me by Councillor Gibson on the 11th of November 2021. In today's email, however, he has listed 4 options, the third of which is newly introduced to the committee and unfortunately is inaccurate. Councillor Gibson and I have corresponded on this matter, and I've been clear that the Community Governance Review would not consider the creation of 2 new parish councils. Indeed, the petition calls for the creation of only 1 new parish council for Crawley Down. If that is resolved, what remains of Worth Parish Council would be renamed, so it's not correct to list 2 new parish councils as an option. I note also that with Councillor Gibson's email, he has questioned why the outcomes should be listed at all, yet he proposed them originally, and the Worth Parish Council has agreed the terms of reference at its council meeting as recently as the 24th of January. Councillor Gibson also wonders how the council will be sure to understand the views of Crawley Down residents. And as I've said, the council will rigorously and impartially evaluate all qualitative submissions that we receive, and all will be published as indicated at section 3, the timetable. We are content to look at presenting these submissions in a grouped way, i.e. submissions from Crawley Down, Copthorne and Worth and other statutory consultees, but these will be the actual submissions, not numbers, as explained in the guidance for respondents at page 67, under the heading, How will I know that my views have been received and considered? Turning to the terms of reference for Hurstpierpoint and Sayers Common, the Hurstpierpoint and Sayers Common Parish Council resolved at its council meeting on the 25th of November to request that Mid Sussex District Council considers a contextual introductory paragraph as shown in red at page 69 in your papers. The council also resolved to request that we delete the options that you see struck through there. In their local circumstances, they consider them leading and unbalanced. They also resolved to propose the 4 open and balanced themes in the guidance for respondents that you see at the top of page 75, and which is also shown in the same document for the Worth Parish Council guidance for respondents. Guidance that now appears to meet with the approval of all the parties to the community governance reviews. The other 3 community government review proposals are administrative boundary related reviews, and they arise by necessity owing to district ward boundary changes made by the Local Government Boundary Commission for England. And although Burgess Hill Town Council and East Grinstead Town Council positively welcome the proposed reviews, it is suggested that they be deferred for consideration at your next meeting on the 23rd of March to allow affected parish councils, Anstey and Staplefield Parish Council, Linfield Parish Council, Haywards Heath Town Council and Linfield Rural Parish Council more time to consider both the terms of reference and the Boundary Commission's final recommendations for Mid Sussex District Council. Accordingly, the chairman wishes me to be clear that the focus of debate initially is upon the Worth Parish Council and Hurstpierpoint and Sayers Common Parish Council terms of reference. And once those items are resolved, if the chairman permits, officers are content to answer any questions there might be about the suggested deferral of the other 3 community governance reviews. For now, though, I'm content to answer any questions there may be on the Worth Parish Council and Hurstpierpoint and Sayers Common Parish Council terms of reference. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Terry, because there's a lot of information and you presented that very clearly. So as Terry has indicated, my intention is we will divide this debate up, and we will first of all go to look at the terms of reference for the Worth Parish Council, as Terry has just said, which are in Appendix A and are on page 61 to 68. And it appears at point 10 on page 58 within the initial report. So I'd like to open consideration of matters to do with Worth Parish Council, first of all, to the committee. I go to Councillor Phillips, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just to say that I think we've now reached a consensus where the majority of the people involved are now happy with what has been produced, and we're more than happy for this to go forward and for the process to commence. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other members wishing to speak on that. Okay, we will now move then to consider the second parish council, which has previously come to this committee. So consideration of the matters to do with Hurstpierpoint and Sayers Common parish councils. That appears in our report on page 69 to 76 and at points 8 and 9 in the report. I don't see any hands being raised in regard to that matter. So, Terry, I take it that members are in agreement with going ahead with both those community governance reviews as outlined in your report. Thank you. So now we will move to consider matters in relation to deferring the community governance reviews to do with the town councils. And in regard to that, I'd like to open up the debate for this committee. I go to Councillor Eggleston.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Just initially a clarification then on the proposed timetable for Mr. Stanley to comment on. So if we defer this discussion until the next scrutiny committee on the 23rd of March, does that mean that the whole timetable is pushed forward by 2 months so that an order would be made around about the end of the year? Or do we condense the whole process so that all of the orders that are subject to these reviews can still be met for the 31st of October? Thank you.
I go to Terry for an answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Eggleston, for that question. Yes, we are looking at the timetable for the deferred ones, and it is likely that we would, because these are administrative community governance reviews and somewhat simpler in nature, one would hope, being to do with boundaries rather than being to do with governance per se, we would expect to trim a little bit off of the 2 consultation periods in order to get any orders arising from those to council at the latest by November, because the key driver for us is actually getting the governance orders made ahead of the production of the 2023 electoral register, which is available on the 1st of December 2022.
Thank you. If I could, if you don't mind,
Councillor Eggleston, would you like to come back?
Yeah, just briefly, thank you. So, so thank you for that, Terry. I mean, I think, you know, as a scrutiny committee, I think, you know, we need to act reasonably. So if you know, parishes need more time to consider the various recommendations from the Boundary Commission and so on, it would be unreasonable, I think, for us as a scrutiny committee not to give them that additional time. So I would support a deferral at this moment.
Thank you. That was the reason for doing the deferral, in order to give the parishes the time for them to, you know, adequately see the Boundary Commission reviews, which only came out the final report, which only came out yesterday. I go to Councillor Sweatman. I can see your hand is raised.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Terry, for that. It's a very detailed report and explanation. There's just a couple of things. East Grinstead is being tagged in with Burgess Hill and Haywards Heath for this deferral. As you well know, East Grinstead Town Council has actually put in for a reduction of councillor numbers from 19 to 16. I'm just concerned with the time scale that if we're being tagged in with Haywards Heath and Burgess Hill, can I have a guarantee that this will be looked at and hopefully agreed? Can you clarify that for me, please?
Councillor Sweatman, I think you were breaking up there. Could you actually repeat that, please?
Right. Can you hear me now, Chairman?
I can hear you now, but you did break up in part of your previous comments.
Okay, I'll place it down again. I know East Grinstead is why we're being tagged in with Haywards Heath and Burgess Hill, and as you know, we've asked for our councillor numbers to be reduced from 19 to 16. Can I have a guarantee that will be done by the end of this year before you go into next year's elections, please? Okay, can you clarify that? Thank you, Terry.
I go to Terry for his answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, this is a similar point as the one raised by Councillor Eggleston. We will clearly construct the timetable for these administrative reviews in such a way that we can get them completed and orders made in time for, at the very latest, the November Council, in order that we can, affect any changes that might arise in time for the 1st of December 2020, the 2023 electoral register, which is due to be available on the 1st of December 2022.
Thank you, Terry. I mean, I see no other members raising their hand. Would the Cabinet member like to make any comments before we go to there's amended recommendations that I will go to Mr. Clark for?
Thank you, Chairman. I just again would like to thank the Democratic Services team for the time and the effort that they've put into this, and for the way that councillors have agreed to go forward with quite a lot of complicated work. It's not so much complicated, but it's the volume of work that I think is quite significant. And clearly we'll have to consider the responses that come in and so on as part of the consultation. Otherwise, there's no point in having a consultation. But thank you, Chairman, for allowing me to speak.
Thank you very much. In the light of the deferrals and therefore the amended recommendations, I'd like to go to Tom Clark, solicitor to the council, for him to read the new recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. In the light of the debate, the recommendations I feel should be as follows. The committee is recommended to agree the draft terms of reference and guidance for the respondents for community governance reviews for Hurstby Point and Sayers Common and Worth parish councils. That's the first one. 2, defer consideration of the draft terms of reference and guidance for the community governance reviews at Burgess Hill, Haywards Heath and East Grinstead to the March 22 meeting of this committee, to give all affected town and parish councils time to consider these draft terms of reference in the light of the final report of the Boundary Commission for Electoral Arrangements for Mid Sussex District Council, published on the 1st of February 2022, to take effect from May 2023 local elections. And then the remainder of it, as published, to authorise the Head of Regulatory Services to make amendments to the agreed terms of reference if additional matters arise during the progress of the committee community governance reviews. And finally, note that further reports will be brought to the committee as the agreed reviews progress.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. I now want to go, I'm going to now move members to vote on these recommendations.
Chairman, if you could get someone to move and second that.
Can I go now to the committee for somebody to propose the amended recommendations? I go to Councillor Clark.
Thank you. I'd like to propose these recommendations. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, I'll gladly second that.
Thank you. Was that Councillor Pulfer?
Yes, it was, Madam Chairman.
Okay, thank you. So we have a proposer and we have a seconder. So we can now go to the vote. Thank you. Thank you, members. That was unanimously in favour of those recommendations. Now we go to item 10 on the agenda, which was the Scrutiny Committee for Community Customer Services and Service Delivery Work Programme for 2021-22 on page 101 and 102 of our papers. I'm going to go to Mr. Clark, Head of Regulatory Services.
Thank you, Chairman. Looking at your next meeting on the 23rd of March, following that resolution, the community governance reviews for Burgess Hill, Haywards Heath and East Grinstead will come back to that meeting. And just a clarification on the meeting on the 25th of May, it's a potential fee increase for hackney carriages and private hire. The actual rates that are charged are going to the licensing committee next week.
Thank you. So members are asked to vote yes or no accepting that work programme. Oh. Sorry, I've just on the sorry, I'm going to the recommendations on page 101. The committee has recommended to note the committee's work programme is set out at paragraph 5 of this report. Thank you. That was unanimously in favour of that. So we now go to item 11 on the agenda, which is questions pursuant to Council Procedure Rule 10.2, due notice of which has been given. I have none. So I close this meeting at 18:56. Thank you very much for your attendance, members. Please can you remain on camera with your microphone off until confirmation that the live stream has finished.